Hi, everybody. Before we head into your AP Lang final, Ms. Holly and I wanted to just kind of review the two passages that were used last week for the rhetorical analysis practice, and address some of the areas that we thought all students could kind of grow and develop some of their analysis. Real quick, before I turn to this, just wanted to go over just a reminder that you have all these great resources that we've shared with you. You have lots of different practice that we've shared with you throughout the last 2 weeks. On Friday, May 15th, there's an onion prompt that is a rhetorical analysis of satire. We don't think that there will be a satire prompt this year, but just in case there is, it is good to kind of review that. It's not really something that we have gone over much, and we don't really see them very frequently anymore on the exam, but just kind of wanted some exposure there. If you would, on Monday and Tuesday, be sure that you have all of your key, your ticket ready. Be sure you've practiced uploading all your key exam info. I have shared stuff here in my daily agenda for my students. Ms. Holly and I have both shared key information in the stream on our Google Classroom, so make sure you've checked those. If you would like a conference to talk about your rhetorical analysis writing, please shoot us an email if you want to schedule a Zoom or just a phone call to go over something. We are both happy to do it. And then all of your rhetorical analysis practice is due Friday, the 22nd. And on that day, we will also release the final essay topic. Okay, so we have our Maria Stewart prompt here and a couple things that I want to go over together. First of all, I used one of the templates that we have shared with you to write the thesis statement. And I want to go over some of the key components of the thesis statement that need to be present, because I did still see some students missing some key components. So first we start with some context. In the lecture, African-American educator and writer Maria Stewart delivered in Boston in 1832. She challenges the notion that African Americans are lazy and idle by arguing that anyone, man or woman, black or white, would find it hard to flourish under the drudgery of physical labor, in order to convince her audience that African Americans are being crushed by a system of oppression that reaches beyond the slavery of the South, and the free blacks of the North are entitled to thrive as their merit deserves. So a couple things. I have context. And then I have some rhetorically accurate verbs. You want to make sure that you are including those. And the in order to component is addressing the purpose. So you have your context. You have your rhetorically accurate verbs. What is the author doing? What is the author arguing in their speech, in their letter, in whatever piece you are given? And why are they doing it? What is the effect? In order to what? In order to convince her audience of this, something specific. You need to, at the very least, have those key components. I did see some people relying pretty heavily on rhetorical devices to organize their argument. In a pinch, that can be fine, but I do really encourage you to look at some of these templates that we have gone over throughout the year, and try out shifting your wording. We do think that kind of the overall AP exam is moving in that direction. And I think you'll score higher if you are able to proficiently do this. This is a little bit wordy. You heard me kind of catch myself on my words, but I sat down and kind of did this in a timed write, looking at the template. And so that's what we're shooting for here. I did include a couple of her words. You don't have to. I don't always, but in this instance, it kind of worked. And so I did. Okay, the other piece is that I really worked on chronological analysis. This is the first section that I talk about. These next couple paragraphs from line 20 to 44 is the second section that I talk about, and then I conclude with this final paragraph. We really encourage you to do the chronological analysis, and it is what we have been practicing on throughout the year. Of course, if you organize it by rhetorical device, you can do that, but be cautious. And, in a pinch, if that is the thing that you need to do to get it done, then by all means. But if you can, look at it as a beginning, middle, and end, then please do. So this passage begins with Stewart painting with broad strokes how the current system crushes the potential of African Americans and furthermore would crush the ambitions of anyone. So passage begins. And what that argument is. She contrasts. So instead of saying she uses contrast, she uses juxtaposition. She uses, an ethical appeal. You want to switch that to an active verb. So similar to what we did up here, what is she doing? Take that device that you've learned about and turn it into the verb of what she's doing. She contrasts the potential of her people to rise to their talents, ambitions, and capabilities with a system that leaves them no options for upward mobility and confines their ambitions in the chains of ignorance and poverty, continual drudgery and toil. This contrast between the hopes and dreams of Black Americans and the system that denies them of anything but mean servile labor is so bleak that Stewart would gladly hail death in the face of ongoing servitude. These comparisons make clear for the audience that the system of oppression in place in America is in direct opposition to the capabilities, hopes, and dreams of African Americans. She concludes this section of the lecture by drawing a final comparison between herself and her fellow Americans. She hints at the universal rights owed to her as a true-born American. The soul-crushing drudgery of menial labor is damaging to the African American people, she argues, and as natural-born Americans, they have a right to the pursuit of happiness currently denied them. Okay, so several things here. You, on the rhetorical analysis essay, have to have text evidence. It is an expectation, and on these most recent practice essays, but also throughout the trimesters, I have seen some essays without it. You need to include it. Also notice, I'm not copying whole huge sentences. I'm taking snippets of her wording and weaving it into the writing that I'm doing. We have also shared those resources with you on how to weave those into your own writing. And focusing on the system, focusing on the contrast that she uses in order to make her overall point. In the interest of time, I didn't write out the full next couple paragraphs, but wrote topic sentences as well as some of the points that I would hit. In the next section of the passage, Stewart directly refutes a recent argument made by colonizationists that asserts that African Americans are by nature lazy and idle. She does this first with kind of her writing modes. She addresses the point made by the colonizationists and then offers her counterpoint. She also, as a quote that I would use, is line 30. She says it's not fair to judge us as Black people as a whole. Whites also have lazy and idle amongst them. And have you not a similar class amongst yourselves? I would include that quote and analyze her use of that as an appeal to her audience's kind of sense of fairness, really. I would also address her establishing a really foreboding tone through words such as bitter, deadens, benumbs. This condition of servitude and drudgery is soul-crushing. She describes it in such a way that it sounds foreboding. It is coming for the African American people. It is killing the African American people. This is not, oh, we don't like doing this work. It is soul crushing, and she describes it as such. Stewart concludes her lecture by once again taking a broad look. So I'm kind of linking this idea here back to my first paragraph, those broad strokes. I feel as though she generalizes and then she gets specific and then she generalizes a little bit again. A broad look at American society arguing against the system of oppression currently in place in the northern states. So here she reiterates her key points about hard labor dampening the ambitions and capabilities of Black Americans. She does not wish to be misunderstood, and that is part of her purpose. She starts this paragraph with the word again, and that would probably be something that I would address as far as a direct quote, analyze how she uses that. She furthers the argument that it's not enough to be free, neither bought nor sold, but that they deserve to have opportunities to achieve their aspirations. So she's making this distinction, and this is a key point that maybe as a reader too, some might miss and some might catch. This isn't really about slavery. This is about free Blacks in the North who are quote unquote free, but don't actually have opportunities. And that system is also oppressive, is also hurtful and harmful to the people. And then she closes with the biblical allusion that argues that African Americans are among God's children and should be treated as thus. And that would have had some hold with her audience. We can assume in 1832 that her audience would have been familiar with the Bible, would have respected the Bible, would have respected its teachings, and thus using this, closing with this piece, speaks to her audience in that way that, hey, if you don't believe all of these other arguments that I've made, maybe you'll believe the Bible. Okay, so chronological analysis, using rather than devices, using them as your rhetorically accurate verbs, making sure you're addressing her purpose, and making sure that you are including text evidence throughout those specific words and specific passages that the author is using. All right, hopefully that is helpful, and Ms. Holly will be putting one together for the other prompt. And contact us if you would like a Zoom meeting or a phone call, a chat, a pep talk before the test. You are all going to do wonderful, and we can't wait to hear how it went. Take care, everybody. Bye.